All right, so continuing on, now that we've got our content, like sort of put into place roughly, right? We sort of got our menu, first paragraphs, our band, date and times. Now it's time to start styling this stuff, right? Getting the images in, the colors, the typefaces, the sizing, all of that stuff. Now there may be some edits to our structure. We'll see how that goes, but for the most part, we're in pretty solid shape. So, starting same as always, right? Just dragging this to VS Code. We're going to open up the IMG folder since we're going to be showing some stuff. All right, so. Right, nothing really changed from last time. So let's take a look at our design. Right. So the first thing I'm going to deal with, right, is I want to put this large background image in. So that'll be the first thing I want to get to display, and then once I've got that in place, then I'll be able to sort of size and position all of these elements over the top of it. Then once I've got the top section worked out, I'll move on to the second and, finally the footer really quickly. Okay, so let's work on that first image. All right, so I did my design in Photoshop. However, you guys have done yours, right? As long as you can get to your image. And so I have mine here in the top photo section. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to export, right, save my image. And I'm going to go ahead and just to make sure that everything is okay, I'm going to crop it down. Now, if you do these kind of destructive moves on your files, be sure you have a backup, right? You don't want to accidentally save your Photoshop file wrong or whatever design file you're working with and lose what you have. So be sure you have your material backed up. Okay, so I'm going to just export. I'm going to use the old-fashioned save for web. And right, just a reminder, all right, you can pick the type of file that you want. I'm going to go with a JPEG, right? It's a photo file. Continuous tone images are good for JPEGs or PNG 24s, right? The GIF and the PNG 8 only have 256 colors. You could do WBMP2. I don't work with those too often, but it's the newer file format. The PNG 8 and the GIF, again, right, 256 colors, so it's going to compress. And this one, it's kind of grainy and it's mostly black and white. It would probably handle a PNG 8 and GIF not too bad, but JPEG is going to be fine. Down here in the left, right, you can sort of see what your target size is going to be. Right, so if I change the quality, I bring the quality up to 100, right, you see the file size goes to 531K. How long it'll take to download on a 56K modem. Wow, that's really old school. But if I push it down to, say, 70, right, and I zoom in to kind of see, right, well, my quality, right, that's plenty good, and it's 192. Right, if I kick it up to 80, gets a little bit bigger. I can hardly tell anything's different. I'm going to stay here at 80. I think it's fine. All right, that's all done. All right, and then I'm just going to go back to the beginning. So I'm always starting from the end. And as I need the other ones, I'll come in and get those later on. So we're done with that. So now we need to think about, what element am I going to put that image into, right? And I want to use it as a background image. Let's head on over to our style sheet. Okay. So I've got my nav styles. I've got my utility styles. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and make a new section. Leave that there. And if I check my index file, right, The section I'm going to want to deal with is this ID top photo section, right? Because that includes all the content, right, all the way down to the dates. So I'm just going to go ahead and copy this title name right here. Okay. All right, save that. So this is where I'm going to put all my styles for that top photo section. And again, this is an ID, right? So it's similar to a class. The difference between an ID and a class, an ID, there should only be one instance of it on your HTML file. It uses the hash symbol as the starter, right? Classes, right? Remember, like logo uses a period. But it works the same way. Now it's the selector. So now I can now target that whole div. And what I'm going to use is a background image. All right. And now my file, right, has a path. And when we use background image, we use the URL attribute. Okay. URL attribute has these parentheses inside. Parentheses represent an argument. It's more of a program. So the URL is a function, kind of a function. And then whatever we want to link to is going to go inside. When we use those parentheses, we need to put quotes inside. Okay. And then we're going to put our path to our image. Right. And we're in the style sheet. Right. So what we're going to have to do, what do we have to do? We have to crawl. We have to move up to get into the root folder, right, which is this desktop folder over here, 05 styling. And then once we're up there, then we have to go into the image folder, and then we will have to find our image, which we haven't put in yet. So let's make sure that that's happened. Okay. So I have my image in there now, so that's all great. Okay, and now I see convict photo. Great, that's the photo I want. Okay, so here we go. We go up a directory, right? // Right now it's working. We know we're getting somewhere. Right there's the image. There's a convict photo, and I'm going to go ahead and save that. Okay, and let's just make sure. Right, go live is not running. So now we're running. There we go. Okay. Okay, and so there we go, right? We now see our images placed, right? Not all is wonderful, right? We've got some weirdness, right? It's like doing a little repeat thing, and it's only filling the height of the image, so we're going to have to now add some additional CSS rules to start getting this looking like what we need it to look like. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is I want to use a background size. And background size has these three main ones. A lot of times we'll use cover. Cover would expand over the entire window. But I want to work with contain. And contain is, as the word implies, is going to try and contain the image within the background. All right. So that worked. Okay. Right. So it's definitely contained since the height of the div, right, it now is fitting it, but it's repeating, so you know I don't want that. So we can work with background R for repeat, and I'm going to say no repeat. Okay, great. Now I've only got one, right? Still, we're just getting there, right? We'll keep moving along here. I want to position this, so background position, and I want to use two attributes. I want to use center, and I want to use top. Okay, so now all these background properties, right? You can look this up, right? If you start to roll over, it'll say, right, the MDN reference. If I click that, and I'm going to go ahead and open it. and it'll give you all the property rules. The other thing that's nice once you're here is, right, you'll be able to examine all the other background properties, right? So as I'm working through the ones I've used, you can learn more about them here, right? You can always Google CSS background images, right? The WS3, all the available sites, or whatever it is you need to find out. Okay, and I'm going to put just a background color. I'm going to use the hash. Now, the hash numbers is a color system, right? It starts with the hash symbol and then 6 different values. If I go back to Photoshop, right, open up one of the colors, you can see right down here, it'll give me the hash color that I'm interested in, right? So for example, if I cancel that and I use my eyedropper tool, I say, oh, this red's kind of mushy, but right there, right, it's kind of like this dull orange. I can copy that. Come back here. And right, you see the red in the background there. So you can use the other colors. I'll do those in a different spot. But one of the things about these hex codes is if you use the same character all the time, right? So 000 is black. If you're going to do 6 zeros, right, which is what black is, then HTML will let you do a shorthand version, which is just the 3, right? So you'll see that a lot for standard colors, black and white especially. Okay, so now we got our background in. And I want to introduce a new value for height. And this is called visual height. Right, and I'm going to go with 95 VH. I'll explain that, right? So I'll just go ahead and save that. Okay. All right, and now you'll see, right, the image is contained, right? It fits within our window, right? It's fluid, so it's changing size, right? So we won't deal with that just yet. We'll leave that for a minute. But VH, right, what is a VH? VH stands for visual height, right? So if we go here, specifies a height of the content area, blah, blah, depending on the box sizing of certain viewport length. So what this 95 means is no matter what this height is of our viewport, what I'm telling the photo is to do is to always be 95% of it, right? So, and the reason I'm doing that is because I always want this little bit of the next section to be visible. But when this file opens in whatever window it's at, I want to control and this value can always vary, right? If it's on a phone, if it's on a tablet, if it's on whatever. So I want my contain image to fit in there. And, we've got some issues still to deal with, right? We have fixed size for the width, and we'll get to all that. And if we just go ahead, we can do a little test, right? If I do 50 visual height, right? You can see now that the height is set to half, right, of whatever. Right, I can go even tighter. I can say, 97, right? It leaves even a little bit less. Okay. All right. So far, so good. We got our background images. I'm going to stop there for now, and then we're going to move on to some additional ones next.